Good evening and welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of Monday, November 18th, 2024. Please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chambers by the northwest door in which you entered. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a short moment of silent meditation, and remain standing if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda, and under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located in the lobby. The council shall require any member of the public addressing the council to identify themselves in the name of any organization represented by such person and their address, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. Each speaker should state whether they are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item, and testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item should come forward after the clerk reads the item and the applicant has presented. After public comments, the applicant may make one short rebuttal. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Tonight is a meeting that includes open public comment. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. Madam Clerk, will you please read the first item of business?
Our first item of business is a reminder that due to Thanksgiving Day holiday, City Council will not meet on November 25th, 2024. Next then would be our consent agenda, sections 1, 2, and 3.
Is there anyone here to speak on an item on consent? Anyone here to speak on an item on consent? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we can proceed.
We can now vote on these items. Item 1A is approving Witch's Brew LLC doing business as Witch's Brew located at 200 West P Street as a Keno satellite, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1B is approving the certification of the street superintendent for a term from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st of 2024, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion?
Well, I've got just a question.
Yes.
This is dated January 21st, 2024, and it's through just to the end of this year?
To the end, yes. We are paid in arrears,
Okay.
and our payment comes in February of 25.
I read through this and I just didn't quite understand that, so thank you.
You're welcome. If the street superintendent just happens to be in the room, in the building, do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, you may call the roll.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1C is setting the Board of Equalization hearing date of Monday, December 9th, 2024 at 3 p.m. on the assessment of Downtown Management BID, Downtown Management Core Overlay District, Downtown Maintenance District, and West Haymarket Maintenance District, introduced by Carlson.
So moved. Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 2A and 2B were introduced by Schob.
So moved?
Second.
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, let's proceed to public hearing on liquor resolutions. Madam Clerk, please call the first item, 4A.
I'll call item 4A and 4B together. Item 4A and B is application of OPCO LLC doing business as Village Inn, 110780 for a Class I liquor license located at 7101 South 27th Street, and the related manager application of Brian Melick.
All right. Is the applicant present today? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself and your address. You can use a business address.
Okay, Brian Melick. I spell last name or no?
Please.
Okay, Mellick. Business address is 7101 South 27th Street, 68512.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Could you tell us a little bit about this application? Is this a new offering for Village Inn?
This is a new offering. Breakfast mimosas is what we're going to be starting with. Trying to, yes, innovation on the menu, and so yes, it is new.
All right. Okay. Any questions from counselors?
When do they start?
Approved by you. Soon.
See you for breakfast.
Okay. I see that we have another application coming forward in another week or so.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. All righty. Well, if no one else has questions, then I'll let the applicant sit and we'll see if anyone else has questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item either in support or opposition? Anyone here to speak on this application either in support or opposition? All right, Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 4C and 4D together. Application of Cornhusker Bar and Grill LLC doing business as Cornhusker Bar and Grill for a Class I liquor license located at 1445 Cornhusker Highway, and the related manager application of Saad Qadaida.
Okay, please come forward, miss.
Hi, how are you, everybody?
We're doing well. How are you? Please state your name and address
My name is Saad Qadaida.
and your business address.
Business address 1445 Cornhusker Bar and Grill. 1445 Cornhusker Highway.
All right. Would you tell us a little bit about your new restaurant?
This first time I have a bar here in Nebraska and especially United States. Trying something new. I run actually car business for about 4 or 5 years here in town. Yeah, trying to show something new for our community. Kind of food and then drink. And then my goal to run alcohol because before, which is my dad and family, we ran away from business because we only allow in Middle East as we sell alcohol. So when we sell alcohol, we have no other choice to do, only as Christian, Catholic, and as a Yazidi can allow to have license in Middle East, because in Muslim country they not allowed to have license anybody else, so only we have two community allowed to have license. So we have very good experience about selling alcohol. And then sometimes when we open, we never know when we die, because people come kill, and which is country they let us to sell, but which is Islamic, they don't let us. So we've been seeing catching our people kidnapping and killing and asking for money. But it was one of my goals to have here, so which is showing myself as a Middle Eastern, have alcohol here in Nebraska. And then we moved here for military, actually here as my dad. Since 2011, start 2003 till 2011, yes, with work with U.S. military as an interpreter in Iraq War. So which is, it's very hard for us to leave, which is their and only job we know and very good experience alcohol in, which is car businesses here. So we started, and then that's my first time getting Cornhusker Bar.
All right.
And that's my goal, to show most, which is new food, Middle Eastern food, and then other food. Everybody here like to try something new.
Yes.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank
Yes,
you very much.
Just one moment. Councilman Beckius.
And thank you for coming down today. We appreciate it. And this is moving into the building that used to be the TAC room. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay.
purchased it from Gary Tackron Bar. Yes.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak on this application, either in support or in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak on this application? Seeing none, we'll move forward.
Madam Chair, seeing no one else coming forward to talk about these two issues, four items, two
There's-
locations.
There's one more.
I'm sorry. Madam Chair, may I stop talking now?
You can. Madam Clerk, let's read the last item for liquor resolutions.
Item 4E is manager application of Kevin M. Ames for Vincenzo's Inc., doing business as Vincenzo's Restaurante, located at 808 P Street, Suite 100.
Is this applicant here? Thank you. Welcome.
Please don't overlook me. I'm Kevin Ames, on behalf of Vincenzo's, 808 P Street, Lincoln. So,
And this is just an application for managing? You-
correct.
Okay.
I'm replacing an outgoing former owner, retired owner. Yeah.
All right. Any questions
Great restaurant.
Great.
or comments?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here tonight who'd like to speak on this item? The manager application at Vincenzo's. Anyone here to speak on this item? Seeing none, we can proceed.
Now?
Yeah, now.
Councilman Show.
Thanks, Tom. Madam Chair, seeing no one else coming forward to talk about these 5 items, I'd like to move approval of all 5, 4A through 4E.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Doonan?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. All right, let's move forward to public hearing resolutions.
I'll call item 5A. Item 5A is authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds for the Dairy House redevelopment project Phase 2 in the amount not to exceed $315,000.
Good evening.
Good evening. Tim C., Assistant City Attorney, 555 South 10th Street. I'll try to be as boring as tax allocation bonds allow me to be. This is really a follow-up item. So this project was approved in September of 2022. This is Phase 2 of the Dairy House Telesis project. There was hope when we did that agreement that we would be able to just operate under the previous bond that was begun back in 2011. As we got to looking into that bond ordinance, there isn't enough principal left on that bond to use it, and there's some language in the existing bond ordinance that limits the maturity dates on the bond to project dates that were associated with the original project. So that's, which is a project that is nearing its completion in terms of the 15-year period. So we need to issue in order to issue the debt that was associated with the Phase 2 project, we need to approve this bond resolution so that we can go ahead and issue bonds and get those financed for the Phase 2 project. So all that to say, this is a bond resolution, $315,000 as approved in the redevelopment agreement for Phase 2 of the Dairy House. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions?
Where is this located?
The Dairy House is approximately 7th and M Street.
Oh, 7th and M?
M.
Okay. So the old Metal Gold
Yep, that building.
property.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
C. All right, is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item? Anyone present who'd like to speak on the tax allocation bond for the Dairy House? All right, Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 5B, accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for October 15th through October 31st of 2024.
Is there anyone here present who'd like to speak on an item on the claims report? Please come forward. Either one. Good evening.
My name is Christian Sawyer, address 629 South 27th Street.
Okay, Mr. Sawyer, would you tell us a little bit about your claim and why you're here to protest?
Yeah, actually, you have to forgive me if I'm a little nervous. I did not realize this was going to be televised.
It's okay.
On July 31st, a tree limb fell on top of my vehicle while I was in commission of my job in the city parking lot south of the probation office. I incurred about, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, a little shy of $5,000 worth of damage. Now, this damage would not have occurred if I was not parked on city property and it was a city tree. I know in the letter that they said that there was no notice of needed treatment. However, that doesn't necessarily equate to treatment isn't needed. So it was my claim that I would like recompense for the damage to my vehicle.
Okay. Do any counselors have questions for Mr. Sawyer? Do we have any questions for city attorneys?
Yes.
Okay, just one moment. Good evening, Ms. Ely.
Good evening. Lily Ely, Assistant City Attorney, 555 South 10th Street.
Ms. Assistant City Attorney, thanks for coming forward. Brain froze there for a
You're
second.
fine.
I'll got this thing. Mr. Sawyer said he was parked in a city parking lot. Now, most of these we see people are parked on city streets. Does that change any of the liability? Does the Tort Act still apply here?
It does. So it's still a city-owned tree. Same application that we would use for any city-owned tree, regardless of the location. We didn't have notice of this one. And again, I'll just flag there was an extreme weather event happening when this tree limb fell. And so that's also part of our evaluation of this particular claim.
Just for the audience and Mr. Sawyer, you said notice. We didn't have notice. How do we track notice? What is notice and what are we getting notice for?
Sure. So notice for tree claims specifically most commonly come in the form of a complaint from a citizen, whether that's the owner of the property that a city tree is on, if it would be a street tree, or someone who notices a defect with the tree and then calls that in or writes that in to the various complaint mechanisms. That gets to our Parks and Rec departments, forwarded specifically to the Forestry Division, and then an inspector is usually sent out to look at that tree. Regardless, if we had notice, we'd have a different evaluation in this claim.
And there's no record of this tree being in our system as one that received a notice?
That's correct.
Thank you, Ms. Ely. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Is there any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you.
Please come on down. And while he's coming down, Mr. Sawyer, what will happen is that we will hear from everyone who has, who wants to argue the claim or argue the denial, and then we'll have questions, after which we'll go into voting session. And at that time, if a council member pulls the item from the denial list, then it'll be looked at again. If it's not, it'll be accepted as denied. All right. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
My name is Landry Mayfield. Kind of the same boat as the gentleman before me.
Would you mind stepping to the
Sorry.
microphone? Yeah, that's okay.
Again, my name is Landry Mayfield. I'm kind of in the same boat as the last gentleman. I live at 1436 D Street. My car was parked right outside my apartment on the city street on August 11th. It was a Sunday morning. And my kid's like, Dad, what was that bang? So went outside, this big, huge tree basically crushed my car. And, went through the proper training paperwork, filed whatnot, and it said that they was going to deny it. But it was, I guess they said that there wasn't no notice of other trees, but the thing was, on that same block, they had already cut down 2 trees, and the tree beside it, they had already cut down some of the limbs because it had previously failed. And so, but the thing was, this wasn't during a storm. It was like a beautiful day, early Sunday morning, and it totaled my car out. So, but yeah, so that's basically what happened.
All right. Thank you. Counselors, do you have any questions? Councilman Duden?
Yeah. Sir, did you have insurance on the car?
I just had liability. I didn't have full.
Then I have a question for the city attorney's office.
Lily Ely, Assistant City Attorney, 555 South 10th.
Has there been any claims that have been approved by the city involving fallen tree branches?
Yes.
And can you give me any kind of a summary or any kind of an idea on why the city would pay for some and not others?
Without getting into specific legal analysis, I can tell you that notice is one factor that we look at. It's not the sole factor. Whether there's a storm is also one factor we look at. It's also not a sole factor. And then the discretionary function of our Parks and Rec department is another factor that we look at. Again, not a sole factor.
Okay. So you look at whether the tree has had reported damage, that sort of thing, and if it has, that's a contributing factor.
It is, but just because there's been reported or requested service on a tree doesn't mean that the tree is actually in need of service.
Right.
So our forestry department evaluates those trees, inspects those trees.
Okay. That's the only questions I had. I wanted that just clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll ask just a follow-up question. Was there notice on this particular claim of a tree being damaged previously?
There was not, no.
Okay. Any
Madam
questions?
Chair, I'd like,
Yes,
may I?
Councilman Chubb.
Thank you. Following up on Councilman Carlson's question and the claimant, he said other trees had been given service on his block. Is there, maybe this is a Parks and Rec question, does that make the other trees in the neighborhood suspect? I think that might be more of a Park and Rec question.
It's probably a Parks and Rec question, but what I would say would be it depends.
Want any part of that?
That's an excellent attorney response. Director Stuckey Ross, would you?
Yes, would you
Please come forward.
Maggie Stuckey Ross, Parks and Rec, 3131 O Street.
Director, thanks for coming forward.
Sure.
Following up on that question, the claimant said other trees on that street had been serviced. Is there a policy or procedure that Parks looks at, say, okay, all the streets are in this neighborhood the same age? Is there a policy or procedure? I'll stop talking now. I should get better at that.
Our inspectors are dispatched to specific reports that come in. They can, depending on the situation, they can inspect between 20 and 25 trees a day. So typically they are going from ticket to ticket and addressing the ticket that has been called in. So I would say in practice, they are going to an address and then going to another address.
Would it be fair to say they don't have the time to say, while we're here, let's look at all the trees, since they're going from request to request?
There are about 85,000 street trees in Lincoln, so I think that's a fair statement.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I guess I got a question. So
Councilman
what you're saying is if they were dispatched to one tree, they wouldn't look at the tree next to it?
In practice, we are responding. We are reactive to citizen complaints. That's how we're set up. So yes, we don't get to all the tickets. We get to all the tickets as they come in, but that is, from our capacity, that's what we're able to do.
They don't volunteer other trees that might be, they might go, hey, this one, the next one's worse than this one, so.
I would say typically in practice, no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right.
I guess I don't know if it's a question or a comment, because I think obviously if a tree was breaking down and it was very visible, right? I think that's something that I think folks would, point out. So, and if Parks is out and they're looking at trees and they see another tree that's visibly, falling apart also, I'd probably be willing to bet that if someone had been making complaints about other trees nearby, they probably would have made a complaint about the same tree that Parks and Rec did not investigate. That's just a comment.
I could see that.
All right. All right.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Thanks.
City Attorney Christie, were you itching to come forward? You were leaning forward in your seat in such a way I thought perhaps you wanted to speak.
I'm here. You called me up. I don't know if there's a question. I was in response to Councilman Duden's question. I think on the agenda today, you can see 2 tree claims that are approved, just by way of an example. But if there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I see the dollar amount was mitigated quite a bit on one of them.
I think there's 2 on there, though.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other questions from councilors. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Mayfield.
Thank you.
All right. That's the end of resolutions. Madam Clerk, would you move us to voting session?
I'll call item 5A, authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds for the Dairy House redevelopment project phase 2 in the amount not to exceed $315,000, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, please let's call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 5B is accepting and approving the report of new and pending claims against the city for October 15th through October 31st, 2024, introduced by Bowers.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, let's move on to public hearing ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions.
I'll call item 6A, approving an agreement for tower space and appurtenances between the city and Celco Partnership, a Delaware partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless, to occupy and use certain city-owned parcel of real property and tower generally located at 2201 South 84th Street.
Welcome back, Mr. C.
Thank you. Tim C., Assistant City Attorney. You've got a map here on the screen. I'll see if I can talk into the mic and describe it. So this is 84th Street here on the right side of the map. This is the old fire station located at approximately 2201 South 84th Street.
North is at the bottom?
North is at
The top.
north is at the top. It's always difficult to tell when you put it on cameras, and but north is at the top. So this is South 84th Street. This is the former fire station here. Behind it, you will see the location of an existing cell phone tower that's been there for a number of years. There are already other providers on that cell tower. What's in front of you right now is a lease to put a antenna from Verizon on that tower. The lease terms are consistent with what we've done with other recent leases across city towers. So this is just using a city asset that's already out there, and they will pay rent, again, in amounts consistent with others. The term of the lease is 10 years with options for 3 5-year renewals. Again, that's fairly standard across this program. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I have one question
Councilman Duden.
from a constituent. Is this going to be a 5G antenna?
I can't tell you exactly. That would be a question for Verizon. I can get that answer for you before we vote on this. But the way that the equipment may be 5G, I'd have to check with Verizon. I'm not an expert on that. That doesn't.
Yeah, if you would.
I will check on it. It doesn't factor into what we work with them on. So.
Yeah. I'm going to follow up. You just said that whether or not it's 5G doesn't factor into the cost of the lease or the price of the lease?
No. What I'm saying is we don't ask them to provide us what exact technology they're putting up there. It may be, I assume it's probably 5G because that's where the market is at this point, but I can't say that directly. I'd have to get that from the Verizon folks.
I do have a question. In reading through the agreement, it said that that Verizon would be the primary RAD acronym. RAD was an acronym. Just a second. And does that mean that they would occupy the primary RAD space? So that means that they're at the top of the tower?
They're not at the top of the tower. There are two others on that tower, so they'll be the lowest of those three.
Okay.
I think there's a map attached to it that shows the tower. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
I'll tell you that I'm not sure that I completely understood the map that they sent.
That's fair. Here is a drawing.
Oh.
The red is the new
Okay.
equipment to be added to this tower.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here in the chambers today who'd like to speak on this application, either in support or in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak on this item? All right. Madam Clerk, let's move on to the next item.
I'll call items 6B, C, and D together. Item 6B, C, and D is change of zone 24018, application of Sostres Temple Holding Corp. to change the zoning designation from AG Agriculture District to H4 Highway Commercial District on approximately 15 acres on the property generally located north of O Street and Anthony Lane intersection, and the related special permit 24030, application of Sostres Temple Holding Corp. to allow planned service commercial development with associated waivers on the property generally located north of O Street and Anthony Lane intersection, and the related conditional zoning agreement between the city and Sostres Temple Holding Corp. for the property generally located at 95th and O Street.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Is the applicant here on this item? Okay. Let me see if I can find this person. Tim Gergen, Clark Anderson. All right.
Dr. Carey here.
Is Director Carey in the back?
Coming out of the bat cave.
Surprise. This one's yours.
David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. So just for clarification, this is an item that has been requested to be delayed to 12/2, to all three of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Right.
We don't usually have Mr. Gergen not show.
Right, and so it was good to see if there's anybody here to talk about it, but that is the requested action today.
Got it.
Okay. Until 12/2. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, can we just, can we vote on the motion to, and I actually can't offer it. Would someone?
Is there anyone that would like?
Oh, yeah. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item before we delay this until December 2nd? And we can delay it with active public hearing as well.
Madam Chair, seeing no one coming forward, I would like to make a motion to delay with continued public hearing until December 2nd, 2024, items 6B, 6C, and 6D.
I will second.
Carlson, second. All right, is any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, let's vote on the motion to delay.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move ahead to ordinances, third reading and related resolution. This is public hearing and action.
I'll call item 7A. Excuse me here. I'll actually call these items together, items 7A through 7D. Item 7A is change of zone 24003, application of Glenbrook LLC to change the zone from AGR Agriculture Residential District to O3 Office Park District on property generally located on the northwest corner of South 70th Street and Nebraska Parkway, and the related conditional zoning agreement between the city and Glenbrook LLC for the property generally located at the northwest corner of South 70th Street and Nebraska Parkway. 24003, application of Glenbrook LLC for a use permit in the O3 Office Park Zoning District to develop approximately 51,000 square feet of office space with waivers on the property generally located on the northwest corner of South 70th Street and Nebraska Parkway.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Rob Ott, Senior Counsel, Glenbrook LLC and U.S. Property. My address, 128 North 10th Street, Suite 313. We've had already quite a bit of public hearing about this, and so I'm going to ask for just a little leave to give you a little bit more information, maybe, and then stand for any questions. I'm going to address a couple of things regarding our request and maybe an option regarding Country Meadows that we've been asked about. And then we have a little bit of information about traffic data, and Dave Clausen's going to talk about that. Our request, and that's the first two sheets of the package, was also sent to the chairman for disbursement to everybody. And again, we're just asking a couple of things that the changes that I've requested be made in the use permit. And the biggest one of them really is, instead of making us pay for the turn lane on 70th going on to Nebraska Parkway, that we commit to using all of the impact fees for that, and that the city pay the difference. We've had some analysis done. I think I mentioned it last time, but that turn lane's $400 and some odd thousand, maybe $450 or some number like that. Impact fees are a little less than that, so there shouldn't be much of a difference. Our reasoning is that, you know, this intersection is kind of a mess anyway. We've acknowledged that it's a mess, and to some extent, this 5-acre development shouldn't be responsible for all of the infrastructure needs that this takes. We've gone out and said we would be happy to have that put in. We think it's reasonable, and then there are a couple other minor requests in there. The second one relating to turn lanes is going north on 70th Street to turn left onto Nebraska Parkway. So you're coming from Home Depot or the Pylock Pet Adoption Center, you're going north and you're going to turn left. There was a request that the turn lane be extended by 100 feet, something like that. Not unreasonable, but that recommendation was made by Kimley Horn in the original traffic study and in the amended traffic study, and they would have made that recommendation even if there hadn't been any development being done, because the intersection's a mess. Now remember, on the last public hearing, I represented that the city has a proposal out. They're gonna rework this intersection in certain ways. They're gonna spend, I think, $900,000 in making a right turn lane from Nebraska Parkway onto 70th Street, and that would logically be included in that. So that's that piece. The other piece, forgive me, I think I asked for forgiveness the last time I showed you a drawing that I had done. One of the things that got that the planning department put in was that on our site we should show how we're going to mitigate the site at 66th Street and Nebraska Parkway, which is the Country Meadows Homeowners Association, right? Because they came and said, hey, listen, we have some U-turning going on there, there's some accidents going on there, and nobody's come up with a proposal, and David and I sat down and scratched our heads a little bit with asking for forgiveness. I'll show you this, if I can get this to come up. How do I zoom?
There you go. Yep.
Okay, this is my bad drawing, or drawing anyway. So north is up. The blue line is if you are going down Nebraska Parkway. So if you're coming east on Nebraska Parkway, you can turn here. This is the Lowe's and those commercial items. You can get into the neighborhood here. You can also turn into the neighborhood. This is the 66th Street intersection, so you can turn in here. And you can also turn in on 70th Street and come around. We just don't quite have enough space here. I'm all pretty close. And you can come around all the way to the back end of Country Meadows. Not unreasonable, and I'm sure people do that, is come around and access these pieces without going maybe through the whole neighborhood. When we were thinking about this, we also looked at then going east, which is the west, which is the real concern. So the easterly green line is shown there, and my suggestion last time was that we put a no U-turn sign at 66th Street. One other option is that we put a little bit of a median there. Now this prevents left turn out onto Nebraska Parkway. It prevents the four-way intersection that it is now. But it does allow so that this traffic can, so that westbound traffic can turn onto 70th Street. Westbound traffic, including from our development, could continue on and turn down onto where Lowe's is and access the intersection. So that allows really plenty of options here if that's something somebody wanted to consider. Again, we don't know how we mitigate that from our site, but we've been asked the question, so we put our heads together to try to find some alternative. And so those are the two things I really wanted to address today. I think Ann Post was going to be here. Maybe she is there. There she is to answer any questions about the homeowner association support that we have from South Fork. I think she talked about that last time. And then if you'd just bear with us for just a minute, David's going to talk about some of the traffic data, and then we'll stand for questions.
David Clausen, General Counsel, Glenbrook LLC, 129 North 10th Street, Suite 313. Just want to touch real quickly on safety. In the LTU and planning made some comments about traffic safety and concern about accidents, and certainly every accident is serious for the people involved, but on balance we think that the number of accidents at this intersection already are not something that, at least specific to this site, are not at what we would consider an alarming level. If you look at the chart there, over the last 10 years there's been an average of less than one rear end collision at that specific intersection. I'll put up a map here too. As you can see, 10 total rear end accidents at the site with the closest proximity to our site. So again, less than one a year hardly seems like a true problem area. And then,
Mr. Clausen, before you continue, are you talking about accidents at 70th and Nebraska Parkway or at 66th?
At 70th and Nebraska Parkway.
Okay, thank you.
At the most immediately closest intersection right here on the corner of 70th and Nebraska Parkway, turning westerly onto the Parkway, which would be right alongside where we're talking about putting an offset turn lane and into our site. And then regarding congestion, a traffic analysis shows that without our development, the intersection will operate at a level of service D during morning hours. And while we acknowledge that, as our own traffic study points out, that by 2026, afternoon performance is projected to decline to level of service E if no improvements are made. Again, this will happen regardless of whether our project goes in. So our traffic study has identified that signal timing adjustments could help mitigate some of these impacts, and again, regardless of whether this project is implemented. So in conclusion, and with all due respect to planning and LTU concerns, we think those impacts are a bit overstated. and that our development, along with the adding the right turn lane, which we've agreed to do, will actually help address some of the existing challenges at this intersection.
Any questions that you have of David or myself?
Councilman Duden.
Mr. Clausen, wouldn't you say that the increase or the accidents at 70th and Nebraska Parkway are mainly attributed to the growth in southeast Lincoln?
Yes, I'd say that's a major contributing factor. And if you look at this map that's in your packet, you can see our site here, and the bulk of the accidents are people heading east, up towards Sam's Club or whatnot, and not, in direct proximity to our site.
So those accidents are going to happen no matter what, whether there's a development
Exactly.
at your site or not.
Exactly.
Because they're already happening.
100%.
One other thing, the clinic that you want to build, how many offices will be there approximately?
That's kind of dependent on the potential user. It'd be great if one big user wanted to take the whole thing, but we've seen plans where it could be divided into
Could be
multiple uses.
Providers.
Multiple providers. Yep.
And don't they normally, when they operate, they have people that show up for work?
Yep.
And then the clients trickle in afterwards, maybe 5, 6, 8 at a time?
Exactly. We'd anticipate they would open during normal hours, 7 to 8 or something like that, and close in the afternoon 5 to 6, and that would be the bulk of the employee traffic. And then patients would trickle in throughout the day.
Yeah, so they're not all going to be there at the same time.
Exactly.
I'll just because I'm more familiar with the development at 62nd and Old Cheney Roads, it's the new clinic that just opened up there, the new pediatric clinic. Most of the staff, the doctors show up somewhere around 7 o'clock, so kind of off that peak hour. So they're there by 7, and it's open until about 7, and open on Saturdays. And as you point out, Councilman, and then clients come patterned through the day, and they set those appointments so they come through the day. So at least our response would be to that. You're right. This is something that doesn't have like a manufacturing company where everybody comes at one point and everybody leaves at the same point. These are transactional all through the day. So that's a good question.
Councilman Shob, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ott, you put up a map a few minutes ago where you talked about, and that doesn't trip off your tongue very well, about the attempts to address access to Cornhusker.
Access to Country Meadows, yes.
Access to Country Meadows, excuse me.
That's the third page of the information, yeah.
And this Nebraska Parkway now.
Yes.
That's also tough. But for your project, you're also adding access to Nebraska Highway? You wish to add access to?
We do. And that's, we have I think a 600-foot turn lane there, and then the turn lane off of 70th Street. So there's a on-ramp to get into our development, and that's the divided on-ramp that we showed.
That's going from east to west.
Going from east to west. That was in the materials earlier. Let me just put this up. So this is the turn lane. So the yellow hatched mark is the offset, and then the blue is the turn lane. So people come off the parkway, and it's a really long runway. In fact, it's the identical runway that is coming into Country Meadows from the other side. Those are mirrors.
On the other drawing that you presented where you talked about maybe limiting access to Nebraska Highway from the south, you're suggesting limiting access there and then providing more access for you a little bit further east?
It doesn't have any bearing on our access. We had just been asked the question, how do you solve a problem at 66th Street? That's I don't want to say it's not our problem, but people said, hey, people are going to come from our business and try to turn around there. One way to solve, because I think the Country Meadows folks testified that they have some accidents at that intersection because of U-turns. One way to solve that is a no U-turn sign. That doesn't solve it completely, but there are a lot of people that honor those kinds of signs. But one way to foreclose it is to put a little strip of a median in there. And then that way you couldn't turn that way. But I don't know if the Country this is something that, I haven't had time to talk to the Country Meadows folks about.
I understand. My real concern was further east on that strip, just a little bit east of 66, will you be requesting access to turn across the lane to get to your facility?
No. No, we would like to. We would like to have full access, right in, right out, left in, left out. But no, we're only requesting right in, right out. Great big runway, turn right in, come out, get back onto Nebraska Parkway and go west. Yeah.
All on the north side of Nebraska Parkway.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for clearing that up for me. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. I appreciate that in response to the question how to mitigate access into Country Meadows, that you came up with a couple of solutions. Are you offering to pay for the median?
We talked about that. At this point, no, because first of all, we don't know that the Country Meadows folks would really want this. We wouldn't know the cost of it. It hasn't been suggested by planning staff or LTU. We were just trying to brainstorm a little bit and say, what could the city do to help them there if that's really a problem? And the city may say, it's time we close that intersection off. But I would expect maybe a hue and cry from the Country Meadows folks. We're just trying to address issues and show that we'd been thinking about it a little bit.
Okay. Well, I thank you for thinking about it, but you're right. There'll be a lot of questions to ask. I have one other question about.
So do I, Chairman.
Okay.
You're done.
I have one other question about the coming out, the right turn in, right turn out.
Yes.
Okay, so the right turn in, I understand the divided lane, sort of separated lane that comes into your property so people have a chance to get out of the flow of traffic and turn in. What is the length of the right turn out? So when someone leaves your facility and goes out onto Nebraska Parkway going west, is there a ramp up? I mean, not really a ramp up. An acceleration lane.
I don't know the length of that acceleration lane. The short answer is yes, it's been engineered.
Okay.
If Nate called with Riga, called me and said, should I come tonight? And I told him, no, I didn't think there'd be many more engineering questions. But yeah, the engineering, both Kimley Horn and Riga have designed that to be safe and according to city design standards.
At 55, entering 55 mile an hour traffic.
Well, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
The longer answer, there's a traffic light there too, which holds traffic, and you can see all the way to the intersection. So it isn't that this is just a thoroughfare where people are just ripping through there.
Right.
And it's the same thing when you make a right turn or a left turn on 70th Street. The traffic has stopped, and you get to make those turns.
All right, I think those are the ends of my questions. Councilman Duden?
I wanted to add that there's been 5 accidents at that 66th and Nebraska Parkway since the first of the year. And that's without your development even being there. So those are happening no matter what, anyway.
They are.
My other thing is I think we need someone from LTU to address this, but I was told that the median actually belongs to the state, not the city.
It is true that the right-of-way
So
belongs to...
there's definitely some complexities to this intersection.
I'm being telepathic. I'm looking at LTU director.
Yeah.
You're good.
Liz, could you come up and clarify that just
There
a
are
little
definitely
bit?
some complexities with this intersection.
I have some other staff questions.
Um,
Never mind. Ignore me.
We'll get around to it.
Ignore me. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. We'll get around to it.
Liz Elliott, Director of Lincoln Transportation Utilities, 555 South 10. Yes, any improvements to Nebraska Parkway ultimately do come, as are the access agreements, do come under the authority of Nebraska Department of Transportation. So any of those improvements would have to be approved and ran through the state before we could do anything.
So the state's responsible for the safety of that roadway right there. Are you correct? Is that
Oh,
correct?
there's a fine line. So technically, the Nebraska Parkway is relinquished. All costs, maintenance, and other stuff fall under L2U. However, NDOT and the state still do retain access control on that. So if we're altering the flow at an access point, we would have to go through NDOT. Ultimately, the cost and liability arguably are on the city. Costs for sure, liabilities for lawyers to fight out in court.
Very good. Thank you. I wanted that just kind of clarified.
Okay. Are there any questions, any other questions for Director Elliott? Okay. Are there any other questions for other staff members? Councilman Job.
Of staff members, I'd like to speak with Mr. Curie and get some clarity on our access policy. Head back to the direct, yeah.
He
deferred to LT.
He is pointing at your back, Director Elliott.
Depending on what the question is, we might have Director Elliott respond.
I think I think I might be a little confused. I'm having a really weird day. I think there were some planning department objections to this, and I thought they were related to our access policy, this development, and yeah.
Yeah, I think from the very beginning of the proposal, there was the basic position that we took for this proposal, that we wanted to see the continuation of the plan for this to be residential, and if it were residential, it would allow for the access that has been set up through the existing neighborhood to the north and not have to have access off of Highway 2 or Nebraska Parkway now. So that was, yes, so there's a basis in that conversation. And what we've been focusing on now is that if this were to get the approval for the change of zone to commercial, then we're talking, and need to talk about the access and make sure that it is constructed in an appropriate way.
And the 4 items we have in front of us for this are changing from agriculture to O3 and related comprehensive plan changes and things like that. To
Correct.
make this change legal, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Other than the residential, were there any other issues that came before planning and zoning or your department has concerns about?
Well, I think that we discussed that as part of the comprehensive plan amendment and the change of zone, as far as like what our plans have shown for many years. So we discussed that in the staff report. But again, you know, as we have been progressing through this process, there was an assumption that the access off of Nebraska Parkway would not be allowed. And then that's, you know, months ago, that's when we found out from the state that they had not only had control of it, but then decided to provide the access or allow the access. And so from that point forward, we've been working on an agreement that if this were to be approved for the commercial, that it would be set up with the appropriate improvements so that it was as safe and as functional as possible.
Safe is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions or comments for staff?
I have one then, just and maybe it's for you, Director, I'm not sure. Point of clarity on the addition turning lanes and so forth. Are we voting on that today, or this is just the zoning change?
So we are voting, you are voting on the change of zone, the comprehensive plan amendment, the use permit, and the zoning agreement.
Correct.
So that it is all those, and so the agreement itself does include those potential requirements for the turn lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Madam Chair, may I have a couple more questions from Director Elliott, please? Director, these are both going to be related to the access policy.
Yes. Originally, when we were looking at this development through just the City of Lincoln access management policy, we denied the access off of Nebraska Parkway turning into the development, as that was one that we did not, in our opinion, does not fit access management. When it was determined that the state still retained the authority for that, it was the state that approved it, and my signature on that was perfunctory because the state has rules. So originally, it was one denied by LTU per access management policy.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no other questions from counselors, I'd like to open it up to anyone in chambers. Would anyone in chambers like to testify either in support or in opposition to this item? Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ann Post. I'm an attorney with Rumbold Ledke Law Firm. That is 1128 Lincoln Mall, Suite 300. I'm here tonight on behalf of the South Fork Neighborhood Association. That is the neighborhood that is just north of this proposed development, in support of this application. Now, I know you've heard from me before, so I will keep my comments brief, but I just wanted to really recap the scenario, and that is, again, that the South Fork Neighborhood Association is in support of this application. The neighborhood understood that this property is very unlikely to stay as a single-family home and acreage development, and so contemplated the idea of, if this property is going to redevelop, what will it look like? The biggest concern has been traffic, that this neighborhood was developed as it was approved outside city limits. It was annexed after that its streets are not at current city standard street, built to that quality. And so they do not feel, and they cannot handle the additional traffic on these neighborhood streets. And therefore, the neighborhood worked extensively with the developer throughout, I believe, at least a year-long process to work with them on a proposal for what this development would look like, and put together a set of covenants that would help minimize the impact of this development on the neighborhood. So it's for these reasons that the South Fork Neighborhood Association is in support of this application, would request that the council support it. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Post?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, so my name's Ken Kira, and I'm at 6400 South 66th Street, which is Country Meadows. And I come here to speak not necessarily on behalf of Country Meadows, but on all the motorists who have to use this area. Approving this request would be unprecedented, unsafe, and incompatible with an already approved and safe plan. Unprecedented. Requesting a driveway, and that's what the developers are doing, a driveway access onto Nebraska Parkway. The city's access management policy does not permit this, has not permitted the access onto expressways. In the past 40 years, not a single driveway access has been approved on Nebraska Parkway between 14th and 98th Street. Access onto expressways, when permitted, is limited to half a mile spacing, which is about 2,700 feet. The distance from South 70th Street to the proposed site is only about 200 feet. So access has not been allowed, and there simply isn't room for access there. Now, we've heard that the state has taken this over, but of course the city is still in control. With the right kind of vote, we can remove any threat of access in this area. Second point, unsafe. This is one of the most dangerous sites in Lincoln. The developer's attorney said it. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You know about the high traffic volume. You know about the high speed, 55 miles per hour. It'd be nice if people actually went that speed. It's much faster. There's congestion in the area. There's the large church, the Home Depot Center, and several residential neighborhoods in this area. This area has serious site issues. The curves on 70th Street leading into the intersection, the hill on Nebraska Parkway coming from the east makes it nearly impossible for traffic traveling east to see. And a lack of turn lanes. which is one of the items under discussion, and the cramped turn lanes. You are taking your life in your hands if you're heading east and trying to make a left turn onto 70th with cars whizzing by you, behind you, toward you at 65 miles an hour. It is dangerous. It is frightening. Accidents. More than 100 accidents in the last 10 years, including fatalities. I've heard people say this is not alarming. I've heard people say this is happening anyway. Come on. Tell that to the victims in these accidents and to their families. What we need to do is slow this area down, not increase the growth and the danger in the area. Now, adding a driveway just feet from this major intersection with cars roaring past seriously exacerbates the problems here, the problems that I've just mentioned. Now I want to stress something that we've not talked about or we've just touched on a little bit tonight, and that is, how do people get there? This is the proposal has one entrance in and the same way out, right turns only. So now what happens when the bulk of the traffic coming from downtown Lincoln, coming from the west, need to get to this facility? What are they going to do? Well, they're going to come up to 70th Street and they're going to make a U-turn. Think about the added dangers from what I discussed when people are trying to make a U-turn there. That is a really horrible idea and a very dangerous idea, having people trying to travel east and then flip back to the west. If you think about it, right now there is absolutely no reason, logical reason, for people to do that U-turn, but put that facility there, and now all of a sudden you have a reason and a lot of people attempting these U-turns. We've talked a little bit about the entrance to South 66th Street, Country Meadows. Well, what's going to happen when these people leave this facility? They're heading west. What if they want to head east or north or south? What are they going to do? Well, they're going to attempt a U-turn at South 66th Street, and we've already heard how dangerous that is. The solution I've heard is, well, let's cut off access to South 66th Street. Well, I don't think that's the right answer for the neighborhood, for us to not be able to enter and exit our own neighborhood. So it's not really a matter of increased traffic. This is a plan with that just doesn't belong there. Adding it's not so much what's there, it's the fact of trying to put a turn lane in there that is so dangerous. And finally, let me address the incompatible.
You're at time. Do you need more than 10 seconds?
I do. Yeah.
10,
I noticed nobody else's time was moving here. Can I have a couple more minutes, please?
You can have 1 more minute.
Okay. So this plan is incompatible with what's already a safe and approved plan. You'll hear that residential development doesn't belong in the area. Well, that's nonsense. Don't buy the flimsy arguments of developers who say that. The site is residential and has always been residential. And if you don't believe it, you can just ask the horses that are on that property right now. All around this area, we have high-end residential. It dominates this area. It's literally a stone throw away from South Fork, Country Meadows, Artisan Way, and Family Acres. Already in the comprehensive plan, the planning department recommends residential consistent with the comprehensive plan. When South Fork Estates was approved to the north, South 69th Street was extended to this property to provide access to more neighborhood housing. I'm going to take just another minute, please. I'm the only one speaking in opposition to this. I think I can be heard. I've got less than a minute to go.
Proceed.
Thank you. South Fork, meanwhile, has 4 homes in this neighborhood that are adjacent to the parkway with values between $600,000 and $1 million.
I feel like I just need to say a point of order, you know what I mean? And I respect your decision, Chair, so I'm not, but I just want to make a statement that, you know, the reason why we have time limits and they're consistent, whether if they're in opposition or support, the reason why your time wasn't going was because when staff comes up and speak and when the applicant comes up, they provide their presentation. I do think it's a little unfair to let some folks go longer and other folks not to go longer. because I think the rules should apply to everyone. So I respect your decision, but I'm just explaining why we do have these rules put in place.
I understand.
And we do it to maintain order, to maintain decorum, and to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to speak and to be respectful of time. And so that was just something that was on my heart that I wanted to throw out there, but I respect your decision, Chair.
All right, well, South Fork has homes that are adjacent to the parkway with values between 600 and $1 million. New homes there would be similarly distanced and farther back than homes currently in Artisan Way, which are adjacent to the parkway. So there are many communities now with homes adjacent to the parkway. In conclusion, I hope this isn't something about tax money, about appeasing a neighborhood or rewarding a speculative investor. We really need to be thinking about the safety of all the people that drive there. We need to keep travelers in Lincoln and our citizens safe and alive. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Any questions for this speaker?
No questions.
All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? The applicant may make a rebuttal.
May I respond briefly? All right, and you set the timer. I won't take 5 minutes.
Since no one else is speaking, you may now have your rebuttal.
Fair enough. No, this will be short. Safety. I appreciate the gentleman's comments about safety. There is some accidents at this intersection. No one denies that. But we've had 2 engineering firms that have engineered this. And I think importantly, while I understand that the city's access policy isn't in tune with what we're doing here, the state took a look at this, and the state is really the big dog in this fight, quite frankly. Originally, the state said no. We asked for a reconsideration, and the state then took a hard look at it and said, you know what? We can see that this would work there. We think it works there. Do we think that it solves the traffic problems there? No. But it does do one thing, and that would be slow down the area a little bit. We all know that when we come up on something that looks like an intersection or a turn lane or anything else, naturally that softens traffic. I think the gentleman is passionate, but I'm not sure that the numbers that he provided you were all accurate. I thought I heard him say that this was 200 feet from the intersection. Don't believe that's true. I think our turn lane 600 and some feet, and the turn lane doesn't start until after the intersection. So again, we think the safety issues have been mitigated as much as they possibly can be. I want to talk about residential. I think that was the first thing I addressed when we spoke last time. John Rollis gave you a letter. This site is just not a residential site. It slopes about 40 feet from high to low, going from east to west. It's an odd-shaped piece. In addition, it's on that intersection. There are expensive homes along Nebraska Parkway. There's no denying that. But there aren't homes right at that intersection where you can hear traffic barreling down 70th Street and you can hear traffic coming both ways on Nebraska Parkway. We've met with the closest neighbor and showed them how our development mitigates the sound that comes from that area. With that, I really will stand for questions. This is a site that isn't perfect. It isn't. It isn't perfect for residential. It isn't perfect maybe in terms of people's mind for a turn lane, but it really is a nice use of a site. It's really restricted because the neighbors to the north have said, we'll allow you to have that, or we would support you in that if you don't put a restaurant there, no Chick-fil-A or anything like that, and the other things that they've required that we do. So respectfully, we hope you'll approve our project.
Right. Seeing no one else coming forward, having had the rebuttal, you can move into the voting session unless there's more discussion here. All right. Madam Clerk.
I'll call item 7A, change of zone 24003, application of Glenbrook LLC to change the zone from AGR Agricultural Residential District to O3 Office Park District on property generally located on the northwest corner of South 70th Street and Nebraska Parkway, introduced by Weber.
So moved. Beckius.
Second.
second Carlson. Any discussion?
I'll just, Madam Chair, if it's okay.
Yes.
I'll just make a comment as we go down all of these. I'll just make one brief comment here at the very beginning. The developer demonstrated their ability to safely implement this medical center along Nebraska Parkway and gained the support of the South Fork neighborhood. Those were the big hurdles for this project, and they have been met. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to take this time to make, this is a site that has been open for a long time, and I recognize that the developer has done a lot of work in talking with the folks who would be most against the project in the South Fork neighborhood. I recognize that not every neighborhood has the same kind of access to influence, and what would have been obviously a NIMBY situation for South Fork not wanting additional residential neighbors has turned into a yes in my backyard, so a YIMBY, because I think that this really is a defensive move on South Fork's part to work with the developer to create something that they could live with a number of covenants to make it so that the impact to their existing neighborhood is not great. I recognize that the state does have access or control over the access on Nebraska Parkway, and so that is a loophole where the state gets to make a choice on the access. I appreciate the amount of work that the developer has gone through to separate the slowdown lane, to create a speed up lane, and to pay for the right turn lane from 70th on to Nebraska Parkway. Or at least we're asking that he do that. I appreciate the creativity and looking at some options when he was asked what to do to mitigate the traffic making a U-turn into Country Meadows. And I recognize all of the folks who have said that there are traffic concerns here, and that they're concerned about U-turns. I too have a lot of concerns. I had some concerns about the traffic. I'm not as concerned about the slowdown because of the slowdown lane, about the speed there. I also know that the more that Lincoln develops along Nebraska Parkway, the slower the parkway will become. We're getting to a point where it's not going to be 55, it's going to be signed at 45, and I know that not everybody drives at 45 miles an hour. Same way that not everyone drives at 55, but this is a situation that will eventually resolve itself with slower traffic and perhaps signs prohibiting U-turns. Because I do think we need to be paying attention to the accidents that are there right now and find ways to mitigate those. With that, it is a hard vote for me, but I will be approving this because of the state having control of the access on Nebraska Parkway and the developer's interest and desire in helping to create a safer traffic flow because of this project. Anyone else?
I'll just make some quick comments about the traffic situation. And we have traffic problems at 84th and Van Dorn because of the developments that are taking place there. And we're going to continue to have development problems with various intersections along the Nebraska Parkway. I don't think you will at 84th and Nebraska Parkway because it's a big, wider intersection. And so it's obvious that some improvements are probably necessary at 70th. And won't that be a fun battle? We'll get the phone calls on that when those lanes are shut down and being widened and what have you. So some of this is just attributed to growth in Lincoln. And, I'm sad about anybody having a traffic accident in this city. I've investigated my share of fatality accidents. with my years on the Lincoln Police Department. So I'm very familiar with what a fatality looks like at the scene, especially after being the first one there. So I'm sad about any type of an accident that takes place at any intersection in this city. And yes, some of them, drivers just need to obey the traffic laws. They shouldn't be making a U-turn. I think it's illegal, period, on Nebraska Parkway right now, no matter what intersection you're at. So, and that's going to stand like that for quite a while as well. But yes, lowering the speed limit is something that probably really needs to take place sooner than later. And I would urge Director Elliott to speed that up if that's possible, because I think that will help make it a little bit safer as well. So, thank you very much.
Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7B is approving the conditional zoning agreement between the City of Glenbrook LLC for the property generally located on the northwest corner of South 70th Street and Nebraska Parkway, introduced by Weber.
So moved, Beckius.
Second?
Carlson.
Madam Clerk, or excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would like to make introduce a motion to amend on 24R 474. It was included in today's packet. That the motion to amend removes the requirement for the developer to lengthen the northbound to westbound left turn lane on 70th Street. It's the same information that was emailed to my fellow council members a couple of weeks ago in draft form.
Is there a second?
I will second the amendment.
Okay. All right, discussion.
I think that's 7B, paragraph 7B that Tom was talking about.
Yeah, it is 7B.
Yep,
So
7B.
there's a motion to amend on 7B. And would you explain the motion to amend?
Sure. The motion to amend removes the requirement for the developer to lengthen the northbound to westbound left turn lane on 70th Street, just in, if you will, in front of Home Depot, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That lane exists today. And as I think Councilman Duden expressed, I think several of the factors that we're experiencing here have to do with growth in general. And we are looking at, for example, the implementation of a right-hand turn lane from Nebraska Parkway headed south onto 70th Street as part of the upcoming CIP. So we know that we have work to do here on this intersection. I'm thankful to the developer for putting in the right-hand turn lane, northbound right-hand turn lane headed west onto Nebraska Parkway. I think that will be helpful not only to people that visit this development that we're speaking of right now, but generally speaking headed west as well. So appreciate that. But as Councilman Duden stated, I think we have issues of growth here, not simply related to this particular development.
One clarification, did you mean to say the northbound?
No, he meant southbound.
You meant
turning
southbound,
west.
going west?
Which way are we?
70th southbound going west or 70th northbound?
Well, what we're talking about right now is the removal of the requirement for the developer to make a change to the northbound to westbound
Right.
left turn lane.
But
I also referenced the turn lane on the opposite side of the street as well.
Yeah.
During
But
this
yeah.
this
Okay,
discussion.
southbound, okay.
How you doing, Benny?
I don't think they've got it yet. In front of Home Depot and Pilot Pep option, the request is to make that longer so we can stack more cars turning left. And the amendment is saying we're not going to have that requirement anymore.
Correct.
So it would remove the northbound on 70th, the northbound left turn.
It exists today.
It does exist today. I use it
Yep.
today. Okay,
And the-
but the requirement to lengthen it would not be the developers.
That's correct. Yep.
So yours, okay, but what remains the developers?
On this particular improvement, it would just stay as it is today.
But does the southbound?
That's another
Does not,
paragraph.
it does not impact any other
Okay.
provision.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Latrell would like to.
Good evening, Abby Luttrell, Law Department.
Yes.
If you have in front of you the substitute resolution 7,
It's a part of today's packet.
and I can just,
You probably do not have a paper version in front of you.
I don't have the
Okay.
paper version. Okay, just a second.
so this is the use permit resolution that we're looking at now. And
What we're looking at now is actually the conditional zoning agreement.
It's a conditional
The use
zoning agreement.
permits, item 7D.
Okay.
4, yeah.
And they mirror each other. For the zoning agreement, section 2 has 3 requirements. So the first requirement is the owner will design the southbound to westbound right turn lane on South 70th Street. So that is a requirement of this agreement, and the developer pays for it.
Okay.
Part B is what the amendment addresses, and that strikes the requirement to lengthen the northbound to westbound turn lane. The turn lane exists. The recommendation of staff was to lengthen that at the developer's cost. And then Part C is to design and construct a westbound right turn lane from Nebraska Parkway into the property. And the other thing that this agreement does, and it is entitles the developer to reimbursement from impact fees for the cost to construct that southbound to westbound right turn lane.
Which was actually a part of our, this body's initial, it's not, that is actually not a change in the motion to amend.
Correct.
Because this body already had that written into its agreement, is my understanding. Is that correct, Abby?
Yes, that was part of this
that was-
agreement as introduced. This
Right.
change of zone agreement was that they would be entitled to reimbursement from impact
Right, the directed
fees.
impact fee reimbursement there. So that's not a change from what this body has seen.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I would like to clarify something. I think the applicant had said that, yes, the reimbursement through impact fees, but that the city would pay the rest of the cost?
That is not part of this
Okay.
agreement. This
All the
requires the
developers.
developer to, with the amendment, to construct that, I'm getting like southbound to westbound off North 70th, and that's an arterial street improvement eligible for reimbursement,
But any costs that go beyond that are still the developers to pay?
are the developers, and the cost of the turn lane onto the site, that's a private improvement, that the entire cost would be the developers not eligible for impact fee reimbursement.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions, councilors?
All right.
I was watching the applicant.
No.
I don't think that's appropriate.
No. All right. Any other discussion? Are we clear on the motion to amend number 1? All right, Madam Clerk, let's call the roll on motion to amend number 1.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Now the main motion.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7C is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 24004, application of Glenbrook LLC to amend the Lincoln Lancaster County 2050 Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use designation from urban residential to commercial on property generally located on the northwest corner of South 7th Street and Nebraska Parkway. Introduced by Weber.
So moved, or excuse me, moved Beckius.
Second, Carlson.
Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7D is use permit 24003, application of Glenbrook LLC for a use permit in the O3 Office Park zoning district to develop approximately 51,000 square feet of office space with waivers on the property generally located on the northwest corner of South 7th Street and Nebraska Parkway. Introduced by Weber.
So moved Beckius.
Second.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to introduce a motion to amend on 24R 476, which is item 7D. This is an amendment to the use permit. Once again, it removes the requirement for the developer to lengthen the northbound to westbound left turn lane on 70th Street. What we voted on previously was the very same thing, but on the conditional zoning agreement. This is specifically on the use permit. Once again, making no other changes other than removing the requirement for the developer to lengthen the northbound to westbound left turn lane on 70th Street.
Second Carlson on the amendment.
Okay, second Carlson. Any discussion? Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if my concern, and it's been concerned with all four items, is the city's access policy and our authority granted by the state being usurped by the state. We, the city, get our power from the state. We have an access permit policy to address all the safety concerns that everyone spoke of. And we have to, as Ms. Elliott said, follow the law and sign off on it because the state has taken that authority from us. And I don't think that's appropriate for this resolution, but I've sat here and I've stewed on that for a few minutes, and I just needed to get that off my chest. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you.
Not happy about that.
No, they gave us the Parkway.
Yes, they did.
They gave us the bills for the Parkway, okay.
Yes, they did.
All right, no further discussion. Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And now the main motion.
Schob,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Ordinances, third reading and related resolutions. Good night.
I'll call item 8A. Annexation 24003, application of White Development Company to annex approximately 29 acres, more or less, of the property generally located at North 112th Street and O Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion on this? See no discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Duden,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8B is change of zone 24010, application of White Development Company to change the zoning designation of approximately 31 acres from AG Agriculture District and R3 Residential District to H4 Highway Commercial District on the property generally located at 112th Street and O Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8C is approving the First Amendment to the conditional annexation and change of zone agreement, East Dominion Estates between the City Fund 51 LLC and White Holdings LLC for the property generally located at the northwest corner of North 112th and O Streets, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8D is the special permit 24012, application of White Development Company for a special permit for planned service commercial with associated waivers on property generally located at North 112th Street and O Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8E is approving the Central at South Haymarket redevelopment agreement between the city and Central at South Haymarket LP relating to the redevelopment of the property generally located on the north half of the block bounded by M, North 9th and 10th Streets, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Duden,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8F is amending the fiscal year 24-25 CIP to authorize and appropriate $5,594,000 in tax increment financing for the Central at South Haymarket redevelopment project, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8G is authorizing the issuance of tax allocation bonds for the Central at South Haymarket redevelopment project, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8H is change of zone 2304A, application of MC Home Solution LLC to amend the Central Park offices and apartments planned unit development, PUD, to allow uses and signs under the regulations of 03 zoning on property generally located at 2200 South 40th Street, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8I is authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $300 million in Lincoln Electric System revenue and refunding bonds, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8J is adopting Lincoln Electric System rate schedules to become effective January 1st of 2025, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? I'd like to say something. We had folks come forward and speak about the rate increases and asking us to not raise the rates. I recognize that each time we raise the rates on any of the utilities, it does have an impact. But we have been consistent this year in keeping our rates around 3% increase. And LES does something close and coming to 3%, a little bit more for, I realize, for some customers. But talking about residential, I only have one thing to say. I respect their ability to manage the budgets in the way that they do. But I'm a little concerned that moving fixed costs, more things into fixed costs from non-fixed means that there's not as much incentive for individual residential customers to turn off their lights to save energy unless they're doing it out of their conscious. They won't see an impact in their daily bill on a regular basis. It's hard to move from the class of residential class into something drastically lower. And so I really encourage LES to come up with incentives to help people, to incentivize customers to lower their electric use. And I don't see that as possible right now with the rate structure between fixed and non-fixed on the bill that we're going to see come January 1st. But I do recognize that we have a really good utility company and we have consistent, reliable electricity in Lincoln, and for that I am grateful. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Beckius?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8K is adopting Lincoln Electric System annual budget for 2025 to become effective January 1st of 2025, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Duden?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay. Section 9 is our resolutions first readings, or items 9A through 9F. Section 10 is ordinances first reading and related resolutions, or items 10A through 10I. And our pending list section is section 11, items 11A through 11H.
All right. As was noted at the top of the meeting tonight, we have a session in open public comment. Anyone who would like to address the council may do so on if the matter was not on this agenda nor planned for a future agenda. Individuals are allowed a total of 5 minutes to speak, regardless of the number of topics. And we ask that you maintain civility and allow the business of council to move forward. Good evening. Welcome.
Evening, Kayshawn Lungelo, 323 North 44th Street. Here again to update everyone, City of Lincoln, on what our tax dollars are doing in the Gaza Strip, on our inaction on stopping bombs partially created here in the City of Lincoln is doing in Gaza. The current casualty figures as of 2:30 p.m. in Gaza on November 17th are currently now there are 43,846 people killed, including 16,765 children. Injured are more than 740,000 people. Missing more than 10,000. In the occupied West Bank, killed at least 784 people, including at least 167 children. Injured more than 6,200 people. Across Gaza, the devastation, we have more than half of Gaza's homes damaged or destroyed. 80% of commercial facilities, 87% of school buildings, healthcare facilities, 17 out of 36 hospitals are partially functional. 68% of road networks, 68% of cropland, all destroyed. Currently, every hour in the Gaza Strip, 15 people are killed, 6 of those children. 35 people are injured, 42 bombs are dropped, 12 buildings are destroyed. As of July 31st, more than 125 journalists, mostly Palestinians, have been killed. Of those journalists, at least 120 Palestinian, 3 Lebanese, and 2 Israeli journalists have been killed, partially or with the bombs that are partially created here in the City of Lincoln. We have the opportunity to do something good for humanity. We can do it. You set the zoning laws. We can do something to get rid of drone dynamics here in the City of Lincoln and do something that we can be proud of as a community.
Thank you.
My name is Anastasia Finner. I'm going to wave my address. So this is what the City of Lincoln's complicity in this genocide does. The City of Lincoln, through its private-public partnership, the Lincoln Manufacturing Council, bolstering General Dynamics, the weapons manufacturer on Superior and Industrial Avenue, that Lincoln, Nebraska pays to go have people train to build bombs that kill kids. This is an undeniable fact. There is something horrible going on in this city. And it's very disturbing that, bodies that are in charge are doing nothing. Because city councils across the United States that do understand that they are, part of this problem, they understand things like this. That every building that is destroyed by an MK-82 and MK-84 Hellfire missiles, those are partially built here. Every martyr a universe. Our tax dollars, our time, our labor are going towards this these split-second things that happens. We're spending all this money to build these horrible bombs and to send them to people that we don't know because we don't want to shame a business that does this to residential areas, to people just like us. I've been thinking a lot about the folks that are there and the kind of intimate ways that they're suffering. Because not only does our silence show our how complicit we are in what's going on in Gaza, but also in Beirut, in Lebanon, in Syria, in the West Bank. We, as a people, demand an end to this. Because we can see how evil this is and how there is clear right and clear wrong. And it is clearly wrong that we are involved in tearing apart families based on a reporter who manages to still survive during this genocide, to still update people about what's actually going on the ground. She has braces. And this genocide has been going on since October 7th, 2023. I don't know if any of you have had the horrors of orthodontics, but that means no fixed brackets that have broken. No wires have been tightened. No new wires have been put in if any wires have been broken. No glue scrapings, no dental care. We are permanently ruining this person's smile because we have bombed the healthcare facilities, because we don't allow them to have clean drinking water with the bombs that Lincoln, Nebraska makes. We are actively watching people decay. Similar to how we watch our unhoused relatives and neighbors in Lincoln decay. But at least here, there's like a scent of perhaps you could go to a free clinic. There's no free clinics here. There's maybe one hospital partially functioning due to our bombs, due to our inaction. It is our fault.
Thank you.
My name is Caleb Peterson, 2509 B Street. This weekend I read the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, and it got me motivated to get more involved with the movement for freedom in Palestine. I've been involved in some demonstrations for Palestine in the past, but I'm feeling a necessity to do more, so this is my first time speaking on it here with you all. I come from a family that avoids talking about politics. Because of this, I get afraid that if I talk about these things, I'll lose friends and family. I've let my fear of abandonment control me. Not only do I censor my words, but also my actions. I end up retreating into the comforts and privileges of whiteness. But does that silence protect me? Does whiteness protect me? I don't think so. Audre Lorde said that your silence will not protect you. I feel like I've become more bitter, more scared, and more unwell the more I refuse to act in accordance with my desires. And I have so many desires. I want freedom. I want Ernest Jackson to be free. I want Palestine to be free. And I don't believe that freedom is an individual thing. Freedom is shared. I grew up in the wake of 9/11, and I was told that I was free, that when I played football in the front yard with my dad and my brothers in South Lincoln, we were experiencing freedom. Now I know that while I was playing, innocent children in Iraq were being killed by our military in order to protect that freedom, in order to give us that freedom, in order that I could possess that word called freedom. But I don't agree with this concept of freedom. I am not free if my freedom is used to exploit someone. That is not freedom. It has to be considered that the workers who produce and manufacture the weapons for General Dynamics are being exploited too. Gustavo Gutierrez said that Christ liberated us and that he did it in order that we might be free. Free for what, he asks? Free to love. And he quotes Dietrich Bonhoeffer, "Freedom is not something man has for himself, but something he has for others. It is not a possession, a presence, an object, but a relationship and nothing else." In truth, being free means being free for the other, because the other has bound me to him. Only in relationship with the other am I free. And then Gutierrez extends this because, as Frederick Douglass was also aware of, Gutierrez understands that freedom is not just a theological or spiritual state of mind. Freedom is political, economic, and structural. He adds, the freedom to which we are called presupposes the going out of oneself, the breaking down of our selfishness and of all the structures that support our selfishness. The foundation of this freedom is openness to others. In this country, I am not free for others. I am only free for myself. I am not free to love. I am only free to exploit, steal, and oppress. I cannot love my Palestinian brothers and sisters when I am paying to kill them. I cannot love my neighbors when I am paying to police them, arrest them, imprison them, evict them, deport them. My religion states, "Thou shalt not kill," and yet we know the person who gives a murderer their weapon is complicit. So I am made complicit in a genocide. Working towards the end of the Israeli occupation of Palestine is something I commit myself to for my benefit, for my freedom. It's my freedom to love. Going into 4 years under Trump, I feel like I don't have the luxury of letting my fears of abandonment control me. I don't want to lose my friends and family, but I pray with Frederick Douglass, who said that between the Christianity of this land and the Christianity of Christ, I recognize the widest possible difference. I believe in the God who loves the oppressed, who frees the oppressed. That belief, which feels more like a hope right now, sustains me. I have to be honest about that. I denounce the Christianity of America. I denounce the Christianity of Lincoln Berean Church, which goes on trips to Israel, which bolster Israel's tourism industry. And I search for the Christianity of Christ. And I'm not alone in this. This is a movement which has been ongoing for many years. As Angela Davis said, just as we say never again with respect to the fascism that produced the Holocaust, we should also say never again with respect to the apartheid in South Africa and in the southern U.S. And I'd add that in Nebraska, we should be leading the way in saying never again to genocide and colonization, knowing our own history. And then Davis goes on to say, that means first and foremost that we will have to expand and deepen our solidarity with the people of Palestine. People of all genders and sexualities, people inside and outside prison walls, inside and outside the apartheid wall. So today, I call for the city of Lincoln to join other U.S. cities in making a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire and end to the occupation in Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak?
Madam Chair, see no one else coming forward, I'd make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second, Duden. Madam Clerk.
Duden?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes,
Motion carried 6-0.
we are adjourned.